All right, so number 1 says, the graph shows the number of missed classes as it relates to the exam scores. What type of correlation does this show? How do you know? So when it's asking what type, it's talking about, is it a weak positive? Is it a weak negative? Is it a strong positive or a strong negative? It is negative. We see that it's going downward. Now, when we compare it to this trend line that I just made, are all the points pretty close to the trend line, or would you say they're pretty spread out?
Pretty close.
I would say that they're probably pretty spread out. There's a lot of them that are all like spread out over here at this end. Like up here, they're kind of close, but as you get further down, they're getting more and more spread out. So I would call this a weak negative. Are we ready for number 2? Okay, number 2 says, if y varies directly with x and y equals 56 when x equals 4, what is the constant of proportionality, our k value? So we find k by doing y divided by x. So in this situation, we're going to say 56 divided by 4 equals 14. So therefore, k equals 14. Are y'all ready for the next one? Okay. Number 3 says, which of the following shows the strongest correlation? So that's where they're all going to be pretty close together. So which one would y'all say?
D.
D. Most definitely D. Okay, number 4 says, what is the slope of the table? So this is where we have to do delta y over delta x. So our delta y, we're going to look at how our y values are changing. So we're going from 14 to 5. So are they increasing or are they decreasing? They are decreasing by an amount of 9, or by a difference of 9. Okay, so then this one over here for our x values, they're going from -4 to -1, so they're increasing by 3. Very good. So that means my slope, my m, equals -9. That's my delta y over my delta x, which is 3. And what's -9 divided by 3?
-3.
-3. You came and got your thing this morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Can you just go grab your the thing and just follow along, or do you need to step out? Okay, all right. Just the review. We're just going over the review. Okay. Number 5. It says, what is the slope of the line that passes through the points 5, -12, and -7, 10? So whenever they're giving us 2 points like this, we want to make ourselves a table. So we have 5, -12, and then -7, 10. And we're going to do the same thing we just did. We're going to do delta y over delta x. So our delta y is going to be the difference between -12 and 10. So if I'm going from a negative to a positive, I'm increasing. And remember, when I have a negative and a positive, I'm going to go ahead and add these values, and I'll have a value of 22. So we're increasing by 22. Now for our delta x, so we're going from 5 to -7, so that is decreasing. And by adding these together, we see it's by 12. So therefore, our m is going to be 22 over -12. But I want to reduce this, right? So remember, in our calculators, yeah, it's going to be that. So I'm just going to show them on the video. So it's going to be 22 divided by -12. We see we get this decimal value, so all we have to do is hit math. It's already on fraction, so we hit enter, enter, and we see that it reduces to -11 over 6. Any questions so far? All right. Are we ready for number 6? All right, so number 6 says the force F of an object varies directly with its acceleration A. So there's our keyword, varies directly. And what varies directly with what?
Y.
Y varies directly with X. So that means this F is my Y, and the A is my X. So it's saying if F equals 90 newtons when A equals 15 meters over per second squared, then what is the value of F when A equals 114 meters second squared? So first we have to find our K value. So our K value is going to be that Y divided by X, so we're going to say 90 divided by 15, which equals 6. So that means our equation would be Y equals 6X. Now this value of A that they've given us, is that our X or our Y? That is our X. So that means we're going to replace this X here with this 114. So we'd have Y equals 6 times 114. Anybody know what that is?
684.
684 is our answer. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so number 7, it says the weight and age of a puppy were recorded in the graph. Based on a trend in the data, what would be a good estimate for the age of a puppy who weighs 12 ounces? So this is where we want to try to create our own trend line here, going through our data. Remember, you can use any straight edge. Okay, and then I'm going to go to where my X value is 12 right here and go up. And it looks like it's hitting at 20. So we're going to say 20 ounces is our answer. And on the test, it'll be multiple choice. It'll be a multiple choice answer. So you'll just have to determine which one is closest to what answer you find. Okay, so for number 8, they're wanting us to find the R values for the to the nearest hundredth. So what we have to do is use our stat edit. But before we even start inputting our information, do we remember what we have to have turned on to find our correlation coefficient? Diagnostics on. So remember, you have to hit second. Oops, let's turn mine off. Second 0, and then do you notice how there's all these little letters in green here? If I hit D, it'll automatically take me to the D, so all I have to do is scroll down from there. And we're going to hit enter twice. Now that we have our diagnostics on.
For number 7, you did wrong. You were looking at ounces on the A.
Oh, you're right, I did do it wrong. Thank you. Go back to number 7, please. Because it was saying, what is it? The age of the puppy whenever it weighs 12 ounces. So I needed to look over here. And I see that it's at this point, which would be, what are these counting by? 2? So it looks like it would be about 7, right? 7 weeks. Thank you so much for correcting me. My bad. Well, I'm saying 7 because of where my trend line is at, because it's not right exactly on the 8. Sorry about that. Are y'all ready to go back to number 8? Okay, so we already have our diagnostics on. So now we're going to go to stat and then edit. If you already have stuff in here, just remember if you light up the L2 and hit clear and down, it'll clear that line, and the same thing for L1. Hit clear and then press down. So now we can input our X values into L1. And then our Y values into L2. And once we get our data input, we're going to go back to stat, move over to calc. We're going to hit 4 for the linear regression equation, and then enter 5 times. And then we see we have an R value of, and remember it wants me to round to the nearest hundredths. So I have to go from this 8 and look at the 7, right? That means I'm going to round up right to 0.99. So this one is 0.99. Are y'all ready to do the other table? So our diagnostics is already on, so we don't have to worry about turning it on again. As long as you don't clear your thing out, like reset your calculator, it'll already be on. So all we have to do is clear each of our L1 and L2. So So again, X is going to go into our L1. And then Y goes into L2. And once we have our data in, we'll go back to stat, over to calc, hit 4, and then enter 5 times. And this time, our R value is going to be what?
Negative 0.49.
Very good, negative 0.49. And our 9 value did not change. We didn't round it up, right, because there was only a 4 that was after it. If it was a 5, then we would round it up to negative 0.50. Which one has a stronger correlation? This one or the first one or the second one? The first one. So remember, the closer it gets to either 1 or negative 1, the stronger the correlation, but the closer it gets to 0, the weaker the correlation. All right, so number 9. It says, which situation does not show causation? So remember, causation is when one thing causes the other thing to happen. So for A, it says when it rains several inches, the water level of a bayou increases. So does rain cause the bayou to increase? Yes, so that one would be causation. B says when there is more water in an athlete's diet, the athlete will score more goals in games. Does that have anything to do with it? No, so it's going to be B. Any questions so far? All right, let's flip it on over then. Okay, number 10 says the scatter plot shows the percentage of a baby giraffe's body mass that was used to determine the amount of food given at each feeding for its age in weeks. Predict the percentage of the baby giraffe's body mass when it is 22 weeks old. So this time we're looking for our Y value, right? I won't make the same mistake that I did earlier. So again, we want to try to create our own trend line. And then we want to go to where X is 22, which is about right here. And our Y value, what would y'all say that is? It's between 5 and 10, but it looks like it's closer to 10. So I would say about 8 also. So let's just say Y equals 8. Or you can say, what do they have it in? 8, or they have it in percentages, you can say 8%. Either one is acceptable.
Only, I think I have to come material because I paid for the number.
Which one? The yellow paper?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I know I have to.
Okay, just hold on 1 second. We'll go over it. Or I'll try to find what you're talking about. All right, number 11 says, what is the slope of a line on the graph to the right? So remember, whenever they give us a graph, we're going to use rise over run. So I'm looking for 2 perfect points. So I'm going to use the y-intercept. And then it looks like my next perfect point is going to be right there. So first, do I have a negative or a positive slope?
Positive.
It is positive. So now I can count by what to go up? Are they counting by 1s, 2s? They're counting by 1s. So I'm going to go up 1, 2. So I know it's going to be 2 on the top. And then we're going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So can I reduce this any? No. So we'll just leave it as 2 over 7. Okay, number 12. It says use your calculator to identify the linear regression equation from the table below along with the requested information. So again, we're going to go through that whole stat edit thing, right? I know. So stat edit, let's clear our L1 and L2. So in L1 is going to be our X values. And then Y is going to be our L2. And then again, once we get our data entered, we're going to go back to stat, move over to calc, hit 4, and then enter 5 times. Okay, and then I'm going to write it just as in this form as they have it right here, because I don't have to like do any graphing, right? So I can leave it as a decimal. So it's going to be y equals, and then the a value, which is 0.65, and then we put the x with the a, and then plus 30.8. So next it wants me to estimate the value of y whenever x equals 13. So all I'm going to do is go to y equals, and I'm going to input this equation right here that my calculator gave me. So 0.65x plus 30.8, and then I'll go to the table. And again, I'm looking for y whenever x is equal to 13. So I'm just going to scroll until I find x as 13. And I see that my y value is,
39.25.
yes, 39.25. And then it wants me to find the x value whenever y is 49. So this time I'm looking over here in the y values to find 49. And I see that whenever y is 49, x is equal to what? 28. Any questions so far? Y'all think it's going to be pretty easy? An easy test? I hope so. Okay, number 13. It says, what is the rate of change of the area painted and number of gallons of paint? Include units in your answer. All right, rate of change, this is just another way to say what is the slope. So we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing whenever it comes to our graph. We're going to use that rise over run. So I'm going to start right here at the y-intercept, and it looks like my next perfect point is right there. Now, is my slope negative or positive? It's positive. What are my y values counting by? 200. So when I go up, I'm going up 200, and then I'm going over 1. So it's going to be 200 over 1, which just equals 200. And I would accept 200 over 1 or 200. Both of those answers are correct. Okay, number 14 says to complete the table that correctly shows direct variation. So in order to complete the table, I need to know what my k value is. So I'm going to use the 2 points that are given here, 6 and 3. And I'm going to do 3 divided by 6, because we always do y divided by x, right, to find our constant of proportionality. And this is going to reduce to 1/2. So now, using my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to put in 1 over 2x, and then go to my table. And I can see that whenever x is 2, y is 1. And then whenever x is 12, y is 6. And then whenever x is 20, oh, I passed it up, y is 10. Are you ready to go on? All right. Number 15 says the graph shows a baby's increasing body length 16 weeks after she is born. Based on the information from the graph, how long was the baby when it was born? So let's think about this. The x values represent the weeks, right? That's like the baby's age. So whenever it's born, how many weeks old is it? It's 0, right? So if it's saying x is 0, that has to be talking about the y-intercept, yes? So where do I have my y-intercept? At 20, so that's my answer. Okay, last question, number 16. It says, what is the rate of change of the temperature with respect to time? So since they're giving us a graph here, we're going to do our rise over run. And again, whenever it says rate of change, it's talking about the slope, right? This is asking for slope. So I just need to find two perfect points. So I'm going to use this one and this one. What kind of slope do I have? Positive or negative?
Negative.
It is negative. And I can see that I'm going down 1 and then going over 1. So it'd be -1 over 1, which just equals
1.
-1. Just don't forget about your negative. Okay, any questions? Nope. All right. Yes, ma'am.